and then we'll talk about something else.
No, I think Ahmed covered pretty
Right.
much the basics. You know, he's been power for years. He's seen through all three Egyptian presidents actually. So yeah.
It's interesting, you know, I've seen a map recently, and the second and the first largest city in Libya are quite separated by hundreds and hundreds of miles. And one of the maps actually showed a line being drawn, and it seemed that the eastern part of Libya, at least for the moment, seemed to be more under control. Those are uprising. And the western part, the Tripoli area and so on, seemed to be more under the control of Gaddafi, which raises the question, are there some fundamental differences between the eastern and the western part of Libya, as far as maybe control or the tribes that are there? Or
The eastern part has strong relations with the western part of Egypt, basically.
Okay.
You'd even see some families having ties with the other tribes, having ties with the other side, from Egypt to the other side in Libya. So you'd always find the east of Libya is pretty much a different demography than the west of Libya.
Right.
And that's why the revolution was sparked from the east.
And you see on the map that, you know, in the eastern part of Libya, once you get beyond the largest cities, mainly desert, and even in Egypt, you get beyond the Nile Delta and so on, going towards Libya is mainly a desert area. So it makes sense that there'd be a lot of things in common, at least between those two areas of the two countries. Anything else you might want to add about the difference between the eastern and the western part of Libya, as far as you know, besides what Kareem just said?
Yes, I think the eastern side of Libya, as Karim said, it has ties with tribes in Egypt in the other side. So I think the geographical area is too similar to each other, which is, but in the west of Libya, I think this is the family, or this the tribe of Gaddafi, which is inserted near Tripoli, and it may make some difference between the two cities or the two parts of Libya.
I mean, I'm going to ask you a purely opinion question. How do you think Libya is going to turn out? I think that's a question I think Obama is asking, Hillary Clinton is asking. I think the whole world that's watching is asking, what's going to be the end? Because, you know, first it flows one way, then it flows the other way. First there's no support, then there is support, and there's bombing to help the people, help the civilians. It seems to be changing almost every single day. I don't think anybody really knows how it's going to turn out, but we're going to ask you anyways. What's your opinion?
My opinion, in the situation of Libya, it is very difficult to expect what will be in the future for Libya. I think, from my point of view, that the situation in Libya, the current situation in Libya, will last for a long time, because we have rebels and we have Gaddafi with his armored soldiers, armored forces, and I think the West, represented in the United States and the European leaders, are reluctant in intervening. Sometimes they use strikes. Sometimes they support and subsort the Gaddafi family. But I think at the end, the rebels or the pro-democracy fighters or demonstrators will win the fight, and Gaddafi and his family will be out of Libya, certainly.
We're near the very end, but very quickly,
Okay,
what do you
very
think is going to
quickly.
happen?
Basically, I think this won't end until there is real foreign intervention, because I'm against arming the revolutionaries, because they're kind of amateurs, and I'm not sure where they're coming from, so I don't want to give them weapon and then regret it later. So I think it'll end with foreign intervention. If not, Gaddafi will win.
That's been a big debate here in the United States. Different politicians know, where are these people coming from? One opinion is it's a popular uprising, which I think it is, by the way. Other people are afraid, well, there's groups behind it. It might turn out badly for the United States. They don't really know, but those are the two things we're hearing over here. I want to close with this question. Why is the Libyan revolution so different from that in Egypt and Tunisia? start with you.
Yeah, I think the difference is in that the Libyan people are mainly tribes. So they are armored, they are armed. So, and I think the problem with Libya is that it has no institutions at all. No judiciary system, no educational system. There are not many institutions that you can depend on. In Egypt, we have institutions. We have a judiciary system, which is very good. We have the armed forces, which are, you know, which have a lot of credibility in Egypt. But for Libya, we have tribes, we have families connected with each other in some sort of some kind. That is the difference.
I'm very near the end, but I also think you have different kinds of dictators. My feeling is in Tunisia and Egypt, you had people in power who were willing to step down and not use all the force they could have used. And in Libya, you got a man in power who doesn't hesitate to use that force against his own people. I think that's a big factor, too. Let me say in closing, I took as a minor at Clark University international relations, but I never had a meeting like this. And I think getting you and the other guests we'll have on the next show around to the different colleges and as much exposure as possible on this issue like we had today is extremely important and helps the American people understand better what's going on. So I think we're near the end. I'm not looking at the time behind, but I want to thank you for coming. I think it's very important that we have people who actually are from the area, speaking about the area, their opinion on what's going on and what might not happen, might happen. And I think it helps the American people tremendously to hear this point of view. So I want to thank you for coming today.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
it
us.
very much. And we're going to have you on for the second show. In the second show, we're going to talk about Egypt. And we'll have another guest on the show with us. And since she's a woman from Egypt, she may have a different perspective. And I might ask her, when she's on the show, the role that women played in some of these uprisings that have taken place. So we'll watch the news very carefully, see what develops as time goes on. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.